All right, so it's a hot summer day and it's smoky out from the forest fires that are nearby, and it's dusty, so it's a terrible day for dirt biking. But we're gonna go hop on the bikes and practice wheeling and practice pivot turns and just do some slow rolling stuff. So I took off this is the 350 exc. I took off my license plate and my tail light and my blinkers because I know I'm gonna loop this out. Also, in other news, I moved and this is my new garage setup. Pretty stoked on it. It's kind of a mess right now. Got this new snowmobile I'm working on. Trying to sell that one if anyone wants to buy it. And yeah, it's actually pretty stoked on how this all turned out.
All right, so we're just out here right now and we're gonna be practicing probably some just pivot turns right here. It's kind of something that we're all trying to get better at, and while I can get some good pivot turns here and there, it's definitely not consistent. So we're just gonna sit right here and do pivot turns until we can pivot turn no longer. There you go. Fuck yeah. That was more like trying to pull up instead of...
Uh-oh. We should probably explain the point of a pivot turn. You all probably know it's just an easy way to turn around, for one. But two is, a lot of trails out there, especially some shared use trails, if you are concerned at all for those trails ever being shut down, especially out here, there's a couple trails that are part of the national forest. Dirt bikers are allowed on some of these trails, but they will not be for much longer if dirt bikers keep fucking up the trails. So the idea of a well-executed pivot turn is to basically not create any ruts and to not dig a hole in the middle of the trail if you got to turn around. There's a lot of switchbacky trails too, that if you're going uphill, you need to be able to just pivot turn instead of actually just do a little donut into the turn. So if you're able to execute a good pivot turn, your tire isn't spinning at all, and you have traction the whole time. As you can see, as Jaron just did a perfect one a couple times ago in that slow-mo video.
It's yeah, it's also just a good skill to build that clutch feel and that rear brake control, because you can use that to get over logs and other obstacles as well. So building the skills in the pivot turn is going to help you in a lot of other places, and it's a great excuse to spend money on parts that you don't normally break.
And clearly I'm terrible at them. Jaren's a lot better, but that's why you find an area to practice, and try not to practice out on the trails so you don't ruin them.
Basically, the technique that we found out that seems to work for us, kind of a technique that we saw in some other videos, and a lot of people are making probably the mistake of compressing and then trying to pull straight up. But what really works is if you lean forward and it's one linear motion, so you're pulling back on the bars instead of trying to pull up, because this gets your weight back over the rear where it should be, which helps the bike come back up and you don't have to use as much throttle. So it's really just preload and back like that. And the second thing is to always try and cover your rear brake, because once it stands up, you need to be able to control how high it is, and that's what the rear brake's going to do for you. So it's really easy to take your foot off because you're going too far back, but the faster you build that muscle memory on the rear brake, the more it's going to help you out in these pivot turns. And that'll help you bring it up. Let's see if I can actually do what it is I'm talking about. Just like that. So the other aspect of kind of these pivot turns that's really important is your clutch control. So this is like all the way in of a clutch, and you're not going to want to start from right here because that's just too much distance. You're going to build up a lot of RPMs, which is going to just spin your tire. So what I do before I do my pivot turn is I let the clutch out until I can feel it start to grab, and then I'll just hold it there. And so when I do my compression and I'm pulling back, I'll let it out the rest of the way, maybe not all the way, but just enough to get that tire, transfer the power to the rear wheel and pull the front end up. So it's learning that friction zone is going to help you with pivot turns and wheelies and any section where you need fine throttle control. You can hear the bike load up. So I'll sit right there, and my front finger is on the brake, and then I let it out as I'm pulling back.
All right, you want to just mess around a little bit?
Yeah, dude.